Hello and welcome to Take Me Home, the podcast offering a social, democratic alternative for the politically homeless. My name is Sebastian Moore.
And I'm hilary.salt.
And we're going to do an interview this afternoon with a very interesting guest, but we thought we'll record a brief episode beforehand because there's a couple of items in the news which seem quite pertinent.
Yes.
So we'll get on to the Supreme Court ruling, which happened earlier this morning. But first, we'll go to you with ships.
Shipbuilding, yes. Yeah. So, oddly, there was two shipbuilding stories in the news over the past week, which is kind of what piqued my interest. I thought I would look into it a bit. So, the first was that the Princess Royal opened BAE Systems' new £12 million applied shipping academy in Glasgow. So that's a UK story. And there was also a kind of shipping element to the whole tariffs discussion. I know we've done quite a bit on tariffs, so I don't want to discuss those specifically. But one of the tariffs that Trump was threatening to introduce was on any importers who use Chinese ships to import goods. So not about where the goods were made, but about the kind of ship that was importing them. And that's really part of his attempt to reinvigorate, revive the US shipping industry, because it's absolutely, the whole industry is dominated by the main shipbuilders, who are China, Japan and South Korea. Do you want to have a guess at what percentage of overall tonnage is made by those three countries put together?
3/4, 75%.
94%.
94%?
It's massive, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That almost seems hard to believe, actually. Only 6% of
tonnage.
the total tonnage of ships built in the world is outside of Japan, South Korea, and China.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And last year, 2024, China launched 250 vessels. America launched
10?
5.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is the American Navy?
No, those 250 ships that the Chinese launched were a mixture of military and merchant marine ships, so, used by the private sector as well. So, in fact, there was a really startling statistic that the number of ships, or the tonnage of ships that China built last year, is more than the whole of the tonnage that America has built since 1945.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that just shows you the kind of dominance of China. The thing that America is worried about, I think particularly, is Chinese warships now outnumber US warships, 236 to 219. We talked a little bit about that. Do you remember when we talked about Greenland?
Yes.
Yeah. The US has been more dominant in submarine building, but China has now learnt a lot from the Russians on submarine building, so is now starting to catch up to the US on that as well. So this is all behind Trump's worry about the US shipbuilding industry. I mentioned he's trying to revive it. One of the things they want to do is to work quite closely with South Korea to do kind of refits and repairs on US shipping, so that the US shipyards can concentrate on new vessels. A really big issue for them is that there is a big lack of know-how and skills in the American workforce to be able to do shipbuilding anymore, which kind of led me right back round to that other story about the academy in Glasgow, because it seems like, we have also, in the UK, we've also lost a lot of our experience and ability on shipbuilding. Obviously, they always used to say Britain was built on its navy, didn't they? So it was always very important to us. And it's becoming so again, obviously, that we've got this increased defence spending. And so the UK is working on, I think it's like 26 ships now, a mixture of ships and submarines. It always confuses me. Submarines are boats, aren't they? Whereas ships are ships.
The ships go on top of the water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't know why submarines are
You
boats.
can tell we're not seafarers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they're building a lot of these military vessels in Scotland on the Clyde, also in Belfast. Have you been to Belfast?
I've not.
Okay.
No.
So there's two big cranes. I don't know what they're called cranes, but two big structures that dominate the skyline in Belfast, and they're the Harland and Wolff shipbuilding cranes. They're yellow. They're very, iconic, really. Harland and Wolff effectively went into receivership quite recently and was taken over by Navantia, which is the Spanish state-owned shipbuilding business. So they've set up a UK subsidiary which now owns Harland and Wolff, and they are building as well some of these new military vessels. So it looks like there's a bit of a resurgence of British shipbuilding, at least in the military arena.
Okay, but foreign state-owned companies getting involved.
Yes, certainly from the Harland and Wolff angle. Yeah. But BAE Systems, are the people doing things on the Clyde. Yeah. We are doing a small number of private sector ships, mainly ferries. Again, we've talked about ferries before, haven't we?
Yeah, the Calmac ferries.
The Calmac ferries, exactly. So there's still more of those being built. There's a couple more of those being built.
And they were built by Ferguson Shipyard.
That's
in
right.
Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a new Mersey ferry being built as well by Camel Laird in Birkenhead, so not too far away from us. Broad guess at how many people are employed in shipbuilding in the UK?
Wow. That's a question I never thought I'd get asked,
No.
actually. 6,000.
40,000. About 40,000, a bit more. Yeah. So
we do still have an industry around shipbuilding.
And it looks like it is, making a little bit of a comeback. So that feels like a good step. It feels to me that this increased defence spending, if we can just spread it out amongst everything, it won't go very far. And I wonder whether it is time for us to kind of concentrate on our Navy. Because we've seen in lots of situations, military situations recently, and that's what was needed. Mm-hmm. So maybe we forget doing some other things and concentrate a bit more on the Navy. Yeah,
I think you're right. The decisions need to be made, strategic decisions around which of our armed forces we prioritise.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that the UK has been such a global power in years gone by is because of our Navy.
Correct.
We're very fortunate geographically in this country that we have sea in between us and our neighbours.
That's right.
Of course, excluding the island of Ireland. But that has helped us kind of dominate globally certainly in terms of our Navy. Yeah. And it feels to me as if any country is going to be a leader in shipbuilding, why not the UK?
Absolutely.
We have been in the past.
Yeah.
And of course, it's quite pertinent at the moment because yesterday was the anniversary of the Titanic.
Was it?
Sinking, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That, of course, was built in Belfast, wasn't it?
That's right, exactly. Yeah. It was, yeah.
So, we need to bring shipbuilding back, improve it.
Exactly.
And train up young people to be, that's... we were talking about this the other day. I don't know if this was... I can't think where this came up. I think it was the talk you did at the weekend about the person sweeping the floor.
Oh, yes, putting a man on the moon.
Yeah, at NASA saying, what are you doing? I'm putting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that works in that industry of shipbuilding, whatever the role that they are doing, they can say they're contributing to putting these ships on the ocean.
Exactly.
I think it's brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. So, big shout out to our shipbuilding industry.
Good stuff.
Good work.
Okay, Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's hit it. Yeah.
Right, it's not too often that the Supreme Court is in the news. Of course, I think the Supreme Court, and this is something that comes up every now and again, is this idea that I think people think the Supreme Court is this hallowed institution that's been around forever. And of course, it was established in
1999.
2009.
Oh, wow, that late. Yeah. I thought it was quite early in the Blair years. I'm getting mixed up.
The bill that went through Parliament was 2005.
Okay.
But the court wasn't established until Brown in 2009.
Right, okay.
But they're in the news massively, leading the news this morning because of this this ruling on what a woman is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a very 2025 story
Yeah.
because, and somebody actually commented, somebody in the SDP said, I'm having to explain this story to my child today, and it feels very weird because the child is saying, what do you mean a court had to say what a woman is? Like, it seems like
Yeah.
a weird thing for us. Now, I respect the fact that we are probably on one side of the issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to think the majority of the country are, which is that a woman is a biological woman.
Yeah.
But there will be those on the other side that disagree with our optimism from this court ruling. So the Supreme Court have said that they've ruled that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act, which was 2010
That's
Equality
right.
Act,
Yeah.
that those terms refer to a biological woman and biological sex. Now, trans rights groups have come out and said we shouldn't be too concerned, and they've tried to downplay some of the worries that they think their followers, members will have by saying that the Equality Act still has protections for people that have undergone gender reassignment, because that's one of the protected characteristics.
Just be careful, because the protected characteristic is not having undergone gender reassignment.
Okay.
It includes anybody just considering gender
Right.
reassignment. So
yeah, and that came up at your talk on the weekend.
it did, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do you make of this? Because to me, it sort of seems in a way a non-story, but then I can see that this will actually have a lot of repercussions.
Yeah, so I mean, I massively welcome it. I think it's a fantastic ruling. My X feed this morning was full of people celebrating and crying and being very, emotionally involved in it. And it will, for many women, be a real relief that it's really clear. So what the ruling says is that even if somebody has a gender recognition certificate, a GRC, that doesn't make them into the thing that falls within the legal meaning of woman.
And a gender recognition certificate, how do you obtain one of those?
You have to you have to have evidence that you suffer from gender dysphoria, and you have to have been living in the opposite sex for 2 years, opposite gender, I suppose, for 2 years. And there's not that many.
And that has to be signed off by 2 doctors.
I think that's right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think sorry, just to backtrack a little bit. The ruling came from Scottish law that was, I think it was about the number of women on boards, on company boards.
Yes. Yeah. Quotas.
And they defined woman there as meaning somebody who was born female or who had a GRC, a gender recognition certificate. And that's effectively where this challenge came from. The reason it's important for a lot of women is because it does mean that even if you have a GRC, biologically born men can't use women's changing rooms, women's toilets, all those kind of situations where women have felt very unsafe when,
And is this what that ruling means, that people with a GRC can't now use bathrooms of the opposite sex, gender? At this point, I get confused.
Yeah, well, it means if ever there's a legal challenge, the law will say,
okay,
somebody born man is not a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman is an adult human female, which, as you say, feels obvious, but it hasn't been. So I think that's the first thing to say, is that I really welcome this decision. It's interesting that in their explanation of their decision, the judges refer to quite a lot of situations where this has been problematic, like sports. So they don't rule that trans women can't take part in women's categories in sport, but they do say that it seems illogical for that to be the case. So in many sports, that's governed by the sports ruling body. It's not a legal thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they have given a really strong steer that in lots and lots of situations, we need to be very clear that when we say woman, we mean biological woman. So that's great. What was I thought quite interesting as well about the decision, though, was that the judge said something along the lines of, but this shouldn't be viewed as a victory for one side over the other. Now, whether it should or it shouldn't, I'm not sure that's what the judiciary should be saying. They should just be ruling on the law. I think he's trying to kind of dampen down the culture war issues around this, but I'm not sure that that's the role of a judge, to do that. And whatever they say anyway, I think it will be seen very much as a victory. I think we should always say that even, people who are overjoyed by this decision aren't doing that because they want to disrespect or distress trans people. I think almost everybody would say that people should be allowed to live the life that they want. But the situation in which it becomes problematic is when people want you to respect the way that they are believing themselves to be. And that's when the kind of real tensions around this come out. So anyway, I think it will be seen as a bit of a victory in the whole culture war thing. But in my view, it's absolutely the right decision. I very much welcome it.
Well, it will definitely be. It's already being seen as a victory for, you can see on the news the women's rights advocates cracking champagne open, and they're certainly treating it like a victory, as perhaps they should. I wonder if you say this is not about demonising trans people, or and you said everybody. I don't know how wide ranging this is, but most people would sort of agree with the fact that you should be able to live your life as long as you're not affecting others.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the argument from the other side is, like, I'm not living my life if you're forcing me into a bathroom where I don't feel I belong.
Yeah. And my view on toilets is that we do need to have some third spaces, and I know that's not very practical in many situations, but I do think it's absolutely the case that women's bathrooms should only be for women.
And women, as we found out today, means biological women.
Adult human females.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it? There you go. Okay.
So, that's our news item.
Yeah. Nice short episode.
Yeah.
But we'll get ready for our interview with our guest this afternoon.
That's right.
Which you'll be able to see, shortly after this episode goes out.
Yeah.
So have a look out for that.
As always, like, share, subscribe to the show.
And if you've got any thoughts, email us or just put it in the comments and be nice.
Great. Thanks all. See you next time.
Cheers.